It's a big difference.
No one knows that better than firefighter Robert Ryan, a longtime triathlete who spent 4 months on the pile. 2 years after that, he got the call for a routine fire. Strapping on 100 pounds of equipment, he ran up 5 flights of stairs.
We opened the door and we were going in to do a search, and I collapsed on the floor. At first I thought maybe my mask had malfunctioned, but that's not what happened. I was just laying there gasping for air, and it just wouldn't go into my body.
Doctors told him he had lost about 40% of his lung function since September 11th, so much that he was forced to give up his lifelong dream.
It was hard for you to tell your son that you were leaving your job.
That was the hardest thing for me. He just looked at me and said, "Daddy, you're not going to be a fireman anymore?" And I said, "Daddy, I'll always be a fireman. I just can't be on the fire department anymore." So yeah, that was like somebody stabbed me through the heart.
Ryan is only one of the more than 800 firefighters who are so ill they can no longer work. And according to department records, 6 years after September 11th, at least 2,000 other firefighters still have respiratory problems. As a physician, had you ever seen anything like this?
What you've never seen as a physician is such a large percentage of people all have the same problem, all right, and all have it affect their lifestyle so dramatically.
As more and more people have become sick, many workers are questioning if more could have been done to protect them on the pile. At the time, many of them remember being told the air was okay. And they remember being told that by the head of the EPA at the time, Christine Todd Whitman. On September 18th, you said, quote, "I'm glad to reassure the people of New York that their air is safe to breathe." Mm-hmm. What led you to make that determination?
Everything that the scientists were telling us, that the ambient air quality in lower Manhattan, this was not about the pile, this was about lower Manhattan. The readings were showing us that there was nothing that gave us any concern about long-term health implications. That was different from on the pile itself at Ground Zero. There we always said consistently, you got to wear protective gear.
Many of the first responders told us all they heard was the air is safe, and it gave them a false sense of security. Do you think you emphasized it enough in hindsight?
You know, it's hard to know when people hear what they want to hear, and there's so much going on that maybe they didn't make the distinction.
But a government investigation found that she spoke too soon when the EPA determined the air was safe because all the test results were not yet in, and EPA press releases were changed by the White House Council on Environmental Quality to sound more reassuring. On another front, although the city required respirators and posted signs at the site, safety reports show only half of the workers wore them. Does the EPA bear any responsibility that some of those first responders refused to wear respirators?
No, it doesn't. We didn't have the authority to enforce that.
But with all due respect, your job as the head of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, is to protect people from the environment. Did you really do it?
We did everything we could to protect people from that environment. And we did it in the best way that we could, which was to communicate with those people who had the responsibility for enforcing what we were saying should be done. We didn't have the authority to do that enforcement, but we communicated that to the people who did.
But who had ultimate authority over the site?
Really, it was the city. It was the primary responder.
Did your people do enough to call the people who were overseeing the site, i.e. Mayor Giuliani and city officials, and say, damn it, we've got to protect these people?
Oh, EPA was very firm in what it communicated, and it did communicate up and down the line.
In no uncertain terms.
No uncertain terms.
In fairness to the city of New York, OSHA, the federal agency in charge of safety in the workplace, supplied and encouraged the use of respirators, but decided not to enforce their use because of the extraordinary nature of the attacks. We wanted to ask former Mayor Rudy Giuliani about all of this. He declined to talk to us, but sent us this statement. The people who worked at Ground Zero are heroes. The government must do everything it can to make certain that they have the support needed to deal with any problems that may have developed as a result of their valiant service to our country.
When I first got down here, I was standing right in the middle of the street.
We did talk to one of Giuliani's deputy mayors, Rudy Washington, who was caught in the dust cloud himself on September 11th. He says he and the mayor were scrambling to restore order during a time of complete chaos.
Rudy wasn't huddled in some corner somewhere waiting on the federal government to come rescue him. We were out there on the front lines, forging ahead.
Could a greater effort been made to get the people who are working day in and day out in those horrifying conditions better protection?
Nobody anticipated this level of toxic exposure. We never had this before.
And perhaps no one was caught off guard more than Rudy Washington when, after months of working at Ground Zero, he too got sick.
To make it worse, they said, we don't know if you're going to get better.